so we are going to use the mic. Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful. We're going to officially call this meeting to order, so welcome you guys for being here and being a part of this committee to help us streamline our grant process and make sure that we are being consistent. Was this meeting properly advertised and noticed?
Madam Chair, this meeting was properly noticed in the Pensacola News-Journal on the 15th of January in the board's weekly meeting schedule.
Wonderful. And will you do the roll call for us?
Absolutely. Matish Patel.
Here.
Shirley Cronley. Ray Palmer.
Here.
Ashley Hoffberger.
Here.
Darren Schaefer.
Here.
Maria Goldberg.
Here.
And William Banks.
Here.
Quorum.
Wonderful. So I'm excited to start with this. I think there's a few of these items that we could probably tackle sooner than later that will take a little bit less time. I think the easiest one is probably, what does everyone think about having a required meeting for any grant applicants? It's something that Impact 100 does, and I've noticed other communities do the same with their TDC dollars.
Commissioner, I think it'd be great. We do it for Impact 100, and it just kind of gets everybody on the same page as to what the rules and regulations are. We also do the same thing for Fufu Fest. When they're applying for a grant, we have what we call a kickoff meeting, where we do, here are the rules, here's what you can do, here's all this, here's the deadline, call us if you need help. So I do think that it would be an incredibly beneficial thing to be able to do.
Yep, I also agree. At Visit Pensacola, for our event grants, we do at least 6 workshops that are held at different times of the day, different days of the week, to try to accommodate everybody's schedule. And we do the same thing. We go through the application, we answer questions, we talk about the marketing, what the money can and cannot be spent on. And it's a requirement in order to receive a grant that you attend at least one of the workshops.
Is there a way we can piggyback on the workshops you're already offering?
I don't see why not.
Okay, I like that.
The only thing I'd like to say is, I know the Visit Pensacola grant workshops are usually done before the grant deadlines. So I know we've seen TDC folks come to the TDC way outside of that time. So I don't know if people will always plan that far in advance to know that they should go to a workshop and then come to TDC. So some people may miss an opportunity if it's only with Visit Pensacola's.
And our deadlines are a little different, so applications have to be received by June 1st. So we do those workshops April and May. So depending on the deadlines for the county, which typically is April 1st, they would have to be done like February and March.
I do have a little concern with piggybacking them because there is, and Darren, you can probably speak more to this, is that we don't want to create confusion to the grantees as to what pot they might be, kind of going for. And Visit has different regulations and rules and, what they've got to do as to whatever the TDC ends up going with. And so I would hate for there to be oh, well, I thought that I was covered by this, and it might create more confusion.
That makes sense. That's a good point, both of those.
Okay. Personally, I think I think that we should stay with the course that we're on, because those applications have to be in on April the 1st. Sometimes I hear from Allison, the applications are not in on time, and it just creates a whole lot of confusion that I don't think that's necessary for receiving TDC funds. People don't get their application in on time, then that creates a problem, then they don't get funded. Then they're gonna say, well, I didn't know about this, or my email wasn't. It just creates a headache. I think if the system is not broke, there's no need to fix it.
So excuse me, I'm gonna figure out how to talk. I'm gonna be in the middle here somewhere. I'm going to suggest that it become a recommendation, but not a requirement. We have, for example, we have applicants that are from all over the country, and they're not going to necessarily be able to come. Now, if you do it online, you could potentially do that, but they apply for support from organizations all across the country, we take as part of our job is to help them fill out our grants. Now, if we're talking about how does Pensacola Sports going to manage their grants, or are we talking about a separate grant for the Tourist Development Council? And the reality is the unified budget was originally designed to be the vetting of these grants, and the TDC was going to direct them, if they were arts, to ACE, if they were sports, to Pensacola Sports, and if they were anything else, they were recommended to go through Visit. We all have grant programs that work within our system. What we're talking about is a different grant program. So for what the TDC needs to do, again, I think it's a recommendation. There are people that do it. If I got to go every single year to see something I already know, I would suggest we don't need that.
The reason I asked on this is the feedback from staff is we very rarely get applications that are done correctly the first time, and it is taking a lot of energy and time from our staff. And it's hard to continuously give out money when it's easier to get money from us than it is the bank or Impact 100.
Well, and again, just what we have found is that if, and it's the same thing for ACE as well, they have to be present for the grant, same thing for FOO, because it shows that you have skin in the game and that you can look me in the eye and you have that, that accountability where you know who the person is and you're able to, and you can cut through a lot of the chaos and clear things up before those things happen. And if this is indeed the separate, through TDC, it's not going to be pushed out through the unified, and it's through y'all's pot, is that creates, I just believe that creates accountability. And also, too, the folks that you are funding are not out-of-town people. The folks that
Boiling Week was out of town.
but they have representation here.
Not officially. They're all out of town. They're from Italy.
But they're here for, and that's just what I, assume, but I thought that Luca was here and Bobby Switzer was here on their behalf, and I thought that there were local people that were here on their behalf.
But that's not who's filling it. And we were picking on one, but that's not who filled out their application.
Well, but maybe moving forward, if that is a requirement, that will be who fills out the application. Because, don't we want to be able to see, touch, and to have accountability for the people that we're giving money to? I think that, at least from what I've heard in the past, it has been, money is given to not all of them, but some of these organizations, and they don't show up, they don't fill out paperwork correctly, they don't submit a final report, they just take the money and do whatever they're gonna do, and there's none of that.
So a couple things. If you're an organization requesting funds, I think it's okay that there may be a few hoops to jump through, whether it's the paperwork or attending a meeting. I saw in a couple of the applications where if you were a first-time applicant, you had to come and sit in on that meeting to understand how it works. But someone who has been maybe a second or third or longer recipient, that was recommended but not required. But for the first time.
It's a good idea.
So even I think with Foiling Week, they did come and make a presentation. I think it was outside the norm of the process when they first came in.
They did that for the first amount,
Okay, any further discussion on that one?
just to ask a question, so if we decide to require on the first request, or I guess technically everybody would be a first, because nobody's really had any official TDC grant training, who would provide that?
The county. So
Okay.
the county staff would put that on.
Okay,
Yeah. And we can, of course, attend that meeting so we know,
what's going, yeah.
right? So for my notes, we're essentially making recommendations to the TDC board. I guess I need a vote to solidify a recommendation. What is, Philip? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so it sounds as though we're all on the same page. We should, you're saying, no, we don't need to do that? Or you don't want to put on a class?
Maybe all that stuff. If you would prefer, I can come over here, but Basically, maybe what I'm hearing, maybe the council, Tourist Development Council, maybe there's a meeting where you have this training at a TDC meeting. You know, just like go through the application publicly, right? So that's kind of what I'm hearing. I think that's what I'm hearing. If you wanted to do something like that, like the pre-thing, the council could actually do it. It could be part of the council meeting. So I just want to throw that out as an option.
That's a good idea.
Might solve that issue, and hey, maybe that happens like the 1st of March or February or whatever time the TDC meeting falls. Normally maybe February, kind of like that pre-meeting, because our applications typically go out right around the first part of March, and they're due April 1st. So that gives everybody a month to complete. So that maybe something, again, happens February, and then move forward that way.
What if somebody doesn't know they're gonna have an event till May, that they're gonna have an event in December?
So unfortunately, you can't plan for every contingency.
Right.
You know, the process, we have to have a process. It simply has to be a reasonable process.
Right.
Now, ultimately, that's up to council. If you want to hear things that fall outside of that, that's up to the council. Council can address those on a case-by-case basis.
I mean, I think that's cool.
I think it's a good idea.
Because the TDC is the one that is making the recommendation whether to fund or not. So if y'all are part of the training process, you know what they've been told, you know what they've been gone over, and y'all are the ones that are holding accountability.
I agree. So I would need someone to make a motion that we do hold required meetings for first-time applicants and recommended meetings for subsequent applicants, and then we also recommend that we make that part of the TDC regular meeting schedule.
Can that potentially, I mean, anybody's made a motion, are we still discussing? I want to make sure this is clarified, that this is not applicable to anybody under the unified budget, because I have my own process.
You do your own thing.
That's what,
This
I
is
want to
where
make
people
sure.
that come to TDC
So
and
I
say,
think
"Give me
I'd like
money."
to have it in this, that this is people who are coming directly to the TDC.
This is strictly
and I
for
can
folks
support that.
coming definitely to TDC, not for people going to ACE or FUFU, Visit Pensacola, or Pensacola Sports. You guys have your own money, and you do your own
Understand.
thing with it.
Understand.
Yes. So thank you for that clarification.
I got a question. So, Ray, well, basically what you're saying, and for me to have a clear understanding, so this is not across the board, basically what you guys are saying, that everybody has to do this. You know, ACE don't have to do it, Downtown Improvement Board don't have to do it, Fufu Fest don't have to do it, Visit Pensacola don't have to do it, because they already have their little program where they're giving funds. Do I read that right? I'm right. But everybody else, so is this gonna be mandatory, or is this gonna be on a voluntary basis?
So it would be mandatory for first-time applicants and then recommended for each
Okay,
subsequent
okay,
year.
okay, all right, that's good.
I'd like to make a motion to have this training held by all first-time applicants, not applicable to Visit Pensacola, to the Unified Budget, Visit Pensacola, Pensacola Sports, or ACE, and then recommended after the first.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second that. I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Does anyone have a preference on what item we tackle next? I want to see if there's...
about the hotels.
Okay, let's talk about hotels.
Let's talk about how we going to, how people gonna prove that they did X amount of nights.
Thank you.
How people can prove that they did X amount of nights in hotel accommodation. I think that's very important, because everybody come up with their own little numbers and showing no proof about how this is being done. So I think that the best way, my suggestion, and based on, say if you have an event, and say you're gonna use, and you recommending all your attendees to use maybe 5 or 6 different hotels, and that you connect with those hotels, and that those hotels maybe set up something special. Maybe we give you maybe a discount or something for actually coming to this hotel, and at the end of that event, then you can go back to those hotels and they could tell you how many room nights you sold. For example, for the Gulf Coast Summer Fest, I use High Point Corporation. I use all the hotels. At the end of the event, I know how many people stayed in their hotels, what the discount was in the whole 9 yards, so I don't have to guess at how many people stayed in those hotels. I think we need to have something like that, because anybody can say, well, yeah, I stayed over here, I stayed out at Portofino, I stayed here, I did 1,000 room nights. You have no way. People need to be able to prove those. I've been proving those room nights since I've been doing this. So I think everybody should be required to actually prove those room nights. I don't know how you're gonna work that with, say, Pensacola Sports Association, you know, how ACE gonna do it, but there need to be some type of guidance on how we're going to establish that people stayed in these rooms, even though, to be honest about it, there's nothing up under the statute that actually requires that. And I do have an issue with that. After actually thoroughly I'm going through the statute, there's nothing in the statute that's associated with room nights. So where did this come from? But anyway, since we're here, if we're gonna do that, I think people should actually be able to prove how many rooms they produced, and also by the hotels, not you coming in and say, well, I did this. Something from the hotels that you used that would give a letter to prove your point.
So I have, technology-wise, I met with Nicole Gieslessen at the Haas Center, and they have an AI program where they can essentially geofence an area, and they can tell you how many people came to that area on the specific dates, and then they can tell you where those people are from. So if we wanted to make a rule that outside of Escambia County, we're counting those as outsider guests, we could do that, and that would be a much easier way. There's a fee for that. She said for probably around $3,000 an event, they could run those numbers. So that is an option if we wanted to make it easier and have a consistent way to do it. I just want to throw that out there.
I think it wouldn't be any cost if I stayed at his hotel. I connected with his hotel. These many guests is coming to their hotels, then they're actually saying we're coming to this, staying at this hotel to attend this specific event in Pensacola, Florida. His office notate that. At the end of the event, this promoter goes back to his hotel, and your hotel, and you got data to actually show. Most people ain't gonna have $3,000 to spend on some type of geofencing. I tried geofencing one time and it did not work for me. It just didn't. So I think we need to have a paper trail or something where people can actually prove that they stayed at these hotels and they brought in this many guests. I mean, it's simple and it don't cost them anything.
So just one point I just want to make clarification is that what we're talking about here is only pertaining to the monies given away by TDC.
That is correct.
Not sports, not Visit, not ACE. Correct.
Well, the Sports Association or Visit Pensacola, they can tell you how many room nights that they have when they have an event. Or when they know how many people they actually bringing into Escambia County. Is I'm wrong, Darren, on that? That you know how many people you actually bring in here? How many people actually stay in hotels that's coming to Pensacola or something that visit? We know we can't count the Blue Angels because we just don't know. Okay, but do we actually have data to be able to prove that Visit Pensacola, Pensacola Sports Association, or ACE, or any of these other organizations that can prove that these people are actually coming here for this specific event, like for the volleyball or what's they call that basketball tournament that y'all have, Ray? You see what I'm saying? We know people coming in here for that. You know, they are buying tickets for that, and on that ticket, if they are using the Bay Center. If they're buying those tickets, and those tickets are Ticketmaster tickets, I don't know if they are or not, but if they're Ticketmaster tickets, every ticket that you sell to that basketball tournament, it shows where this person come from, because they're using their credit card. Shows what city they're out of and everything. So it's a way to really actually track this if you want to really track it.
The easiest way is if the proper events that are put together, if they provide their attendees a rate code, then any hotel that's booking that can give you, if they want real details, they can give you details by each customer, or they can just give you, hey, this rate code, Jazz Fest produced
Right.
600 room nights.
That's how High
And
Point
the
does.
sports are, that's why sports is so easy, because most people come in and even when they submit their grant application, they usually have lowered it down to 2 or 3 hotels are going to use.
Right,
The
right.
teams are going to use, so
Like
it's
I
real
said, I
easy.
use all High Point Corporation
Right, so
hotels.
it'd be real easy for
So
them.
it's easy for me to call Christie over there, Christie Madison at High Point Corporation, and say, I need to know how many people stayed in all these hotels and how much money it's costing me for these hotels. And she'll send that to me, and I know, and I can turn that in. So
they use a rate code for?
they use the rate code. They give a rate. Where a hotel might cost $200 a night, they might cut it down because they're attending the Jazz Fest to maybe $150. You see, so it can be done where you can really, really track it.
I like the rate code. How does that look as far as reporting? Do you just give the promoter a report and say this number of
Yes.
rooms?
So normally, like, let's say he's having Jazz Fest, then he'll set up a rate code with the hotels. When guests call in, they would know that they're trying to get a discount or the
Right.
group code for Jazz Fest. So when we type it into our computer, whatever we've discussed with Mr. Banks, that's the discount they would get. So normally, hotels will try to give some sort of discount so that incentivizes the guests to use the rate code and not just go online and try to find their cheapest rate they can. And most people that attend events, if they know their friends are staying at a specific hotel for Jazz Fest, they all want to stay at that
Right.
hotel. So the rate code is the easiest way, I think, if you're not trying to spend money, because most hotels, now it goes back on whoever's holding the event, they'd have to go back to the hotel and say, can you please give that to me? And some salespeople are quick, and then some people are busy and may not give it to you right away, so it's just that falls on the hotel.
I like that.
So, yeah, there's a couple different ways. That's a great way, a rate code, market code, or
Yes.
some properties are able to provide links that they provide the promoter, and if you click on that link, it takes them straight to that hotel's page with the rates.
Right,
And they're able to track it that
Well,
way.
on my
So there's a
website,
couple
all the
ways.
hotels that I use, if you go to my website, basically what you're gonna see all these different hotels. And all these hotels have what they have, a Jazz Fest code. So when people, with the phone number to that hotel, so when they call that hotel and they give that code, the people at the hotel already know that these people are going to attend the Jazz Fest, so they get their discount. Only time I have to worry about when it's already over and they get paid, and then I ask for the record for all these people that stayed, and then I'll go back, and if I don't already have an email on all these people, I just enter them into the website. So next year, I got new people that I send that back out in an email blast to them, and they go to the website and they see the hotels.
So the rate code and the links work the same?
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
So what about, and forgive me, because I don't know this, y'all, hoteliers and lodging folks, of what if they are, and I don't know how this, in the score of things, of if they are staying, so I guess what I'm trying to think about is that I would hope that we would come up with some kind of a scorecard that we are going to give to whoever's applying through the TDC money and saying, here's what we're judging you on. And y'all, on a score of 1 to 10, can rate each one of them and come up with a score. It's something that we do for food that works really, really well. But that hotel stays are one aspect of this scorecard. It's not, it's like one thing. But what about those folks that are coming in town, but they're staying with friends and family? What about those that are staying in, and that's what I'm saying, I don't, because they are still creating an economic impact. They may not be staying in a hotel room, but they are still going to eat at the fish house. They're still, you know what I mean, going to.
VRBOs, which they're
Yeah,
still paying their
they're still
taxes,
paying their
but-
taxes. So it's not just about, I absolutely, hotels are a huge part of this, but there are other parts as well. And this is one component, I believe, of the full, what the TDC should be scoring these applicants on, not just that.
Well, most people, what'll happen to solve that problem is a simple solution to that problem. If Ray is doing a championship basketball game, some of these people got family here in Pensacola that they gonna stay with the family members. But when they attend that basketball game, Ray has a survey company in place that's gonna survey that event. Whether they stayed at a hotel, stayed with their cousin, or whoever they stayed with. And then that's gonna be tallied up, so that way you know how many people that attended that event, even though you might not know specifically, less for the hotels, how many people stayed at the hotels. You see what I'm saying? So there's a
But what if it's not a ticketed event?
well, that's something we're gonna have to get to if it's not a ticketed event, because you could have downtown improvement board say they got 200,000 people walk down Palafox Street, and we know 200,000 people cannot get on Palafox Street.
Correct.
But so they'll come up with, well, we had 200,000 people, so we did 1 million room nights. That's virtually impossible.
I know.
See, I believe what's good for the goose is good for the gander. What apply to one event have to apply to all events. If I'm required to turn in a survey, every event that's receiving money should be required to turn in a survey. Now, surveys are expensive. I found out you can actually pay for a survey through your TDC funding.
So we're back to the Haas Center situation and making it a required part. We could require that if we give you you asked for $10,000, and we're like, yes, but we also need a survey from the Haas Center, so here's $13,000, so you can also pay the Haas Center to do that survey. So that's
Well-
an option as well.
But we do, so for ACE, we do use the Haas Center every year, and we also do intercept surveys. We also pass out little cards with the QR code so people can take surveys from there. We also do the geofencing. We do all three of those things. And ACE uses part of their funding that they receive from TDC to help pay for those expenses.
See, I never knew that you can actually use the funding to pay for the
Yeah.
survey, so I just been paying for it out of my pocket. But I was educated. I was
So
educated
know
by
that.
somebody on the TDC board. No, well, you ain't got to do that. You could use funds, to
But it's
pay.
an incredibly helpful tool, because then what that allows us to do as ACE is that we're able to, the Haas Center, which, so we're out of it, it's in a third-party source, and they put together the whole report, they put together an executive summary, and they put together a whole for whatever, let's just say for Fufu Fest, for the 2 weeks of Fufu Fest, we do all of these things. We survey, intercept survey, we geofence, we do all of this stuff, and then they are able to produce a report that says what the economic impact or return on the investment of how much money that we got from TDC through the unified budget, how far that went.
Right.
And for ACE, it has proven to be a very helpful tool, and we have been able to not only prove, but it kind of gives that documentation of fact, which is a nice thing for anyone to be able to have, whether it be the individual organizations or whether it be the commissioners or the TDC members or whatever. It gives them that backup to say, well, this is why we funded this, because look at what they're doing for our community.
So at Visit Pensacola, we use our research agency, Downs and St. Germain, for any grant applicant that gets an award. That includes a survey that's done by Downs and St. Germain. So that allows us to be consistent, to your point, that every applicant is going to be able to provide a report on the attendance and the economic impact. Now, that survey, the one through
Downs and Jones.
UWF, it's going to depend in part on information that the event promoter provides. So if the event promoter provides attendance numbers that are not verifiable numbers, that can really skew the results. And that's something that when we looked at Foiling Week and we looked at the numbers, we're like, there's no way those numbers are right. And so they reported numbers differently than how we would typically report numbers. And so when that was adjusted, the numbers came down, it was more realistic. And that was before they finally gave all the information to our Downs and St. Germain to finish that study. But I think having a consistent study that everybody has to use makes sense.
Well, in my situation, Aaron, the survey company I used at Visit Pensacola used majority opinion survey. Well, what they want from me, I have to produce the numbers from the ticket sales. They want to know how many tickets were sold. So I have to get that and turn that into them. And then they don't ever talk to me. So you know how it goes. They send their people out there to survey the event, and that's basically it.
I think the challenge is some events, are ticketed, so you.
That's where a problem
you can
gonna come
track
in.
that number.
Yeah,
If we're
that's-
talking about Sunbelt Conference Basketball Championship, we can look at those ticket sales. that
Yes.
Come through Ticketmaster, that's great, and that's part of the evaluation. We look at each team and what they bring in for athletes and spirit teams and cheerleaders and coaches. And athletic events are great, you know, the Double Bridge Run, Ray's got all the registration from everybody who's participating in the event, and we can track that aspect of it. As far as spectators that travel with those individuals, if it's part of the registration question, you know, you can track that. Some events are pay to play, where you've got to stay at these specific hotels in order to play in that tournament. I don't know how many of those we have, but in other markets I've seen it. So, not every event. Seafood Festival, Mardi Gras, if they're not tracking attendance, then it's, what's the attendance of Mardi Gras?
Well, and that's why I like the Haas Center uses Placer AI. So it literally geofences the whole area and then gives you the count of people there.
It's tracking cell phones?
Yes, but it pulls out the duplicate. So I have my watch and then my cell phone, so it would pull out the duplication.
Why can't they just use Eventbrite and the event organizer just issue tickets? Those tickets are numbered. Eventbrite gonna look at how many that go on Eventbrite. If you're not charging, say if it's a free event, you can still use Eventbrite. And you can go on Eventbrite, you connect with Eventbrite, they'll set up the ticket sales.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna do that for Mardi Gras.
Well, how you get the numbers?
That's what we're talking about.
Because Mardi Gras said they had 100,000 people last year at the Mardi Gras.
I feel like I threw over 100,000 beads. I'll tell you
I mean,
that.
that's the bees, come on.
Like, whoa.
You know, so that's, I think that need to be talked about later, or try to figure, somebody come up with an idea of how you can track it. I mean, I used geofencing. The reason I used geofencing one time, it was that my competitor is Panama City, the Seabreeze Jazz Festival, okay? And I wanted to get inside of the jazz. I wanted to get inside of Seabreeze, because they weren't gonna let me in there pass out no flyers. So I come up with this company that was doing geofencing. And so they told me, oh yeah, it cost me about $2,000. We could give me the longitude and the latitude, and we could put you dead in there. And anytime anybody get within that range, it's gonna show up on your phone. Guess what? It ain't showed up on my phone yet, right?
So how many folks did you have at the last Jazz Fest?
Last year, about 3,500, something like that. Yeah. But it's just, you got to get the geo. I mean, maybe they done got better with it, because that's when it had kind of first came out. It was kind of new to geofencing. I haven't used it since then because I was disappointed in it. You know, I had friends of mine down there. I say, listen, are you showing anything? I don't see you on the geofencing or nothing. So, they had the right, they the one who gave me the longitude and the latitude for it, but it never actually.
So I actually pulled it for the last 3 years for Jazz Fest, and you're almost spot on with the geofencing from the Haas Center.
Well, I sure ain't seen that. You pulled a fast one on me then. I'm gonna
I
get you for
did.
that. Just hold tight,
I
I'm
did.
coming.
I did.
So I can keep this so I can review?
That's all for you? Yes, sir.
So I'm spot on? I
You're
know-
really close.
I know what I'm talking about?
You're really close.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So it's got the information on there.
Now, why you just pull mine, I wonder?
But, because if your numbers were off, I wasn't gonna call you out on it.
You
Just
wouldn't-
in case,
you
I
wouldn't
was
have called
gonna-
me
I
out?
was just
If my
gonna-
number was wrong, you wouldn't have called me, you would have called me out?
Not right here, no.
You would have called me somewhere else, come to your
Like
office.
in private, yes.
Yeah, but I'm right on, spot right on,
Yeah.
okay.
You're really close. So, but that's the type of reports that they can do with the geofencing and telling you where those
Well,
people came from.
who else you pulled out?
I just pulled that one because I knew you were
Why
gonna be,
you
because
being
I knew you were
Cadillac?
gonna be here.
You picking on me.
So back to this, it sounds like we feel like there needs to be some kind of measurables in place
And we can give them options.
for, well, but there's got, and this is like one component of like a bigger thing. But again, we need to figure out how that's gonna happen, whether it is, hotel rooms, whether it is intercept surveys, whether it is geofencing, or whether it's all or some or whatever, that they've got to be able to provide this as part part of their application. Is that fair?
I'm not big on the intercept surveys or the promoters giving them the information as much as I am, like you said, using the codes or using the geofencing, because I feel like it's too,
However but we need something.
yes.
I think if you're doing a musical event, you know, and we got to be able to have something that works. Now, I wish I could go to the county and give them this jazz festival and Cadillac be done with it. Like Jacksonville has a free jazz festival, and people from all over the country, overseas, come to it every year. But they hire a promoter to do it. So they don't have to worry about that because it's free. So, but in these paid events, I mean, this is good. I'm gonna get a chance to research it. I am a law clerk researcher. I'm retired now, but I did it for 20-some years for Attorney Bill Richburg, so I really know the law really well. So, but I'm gonna look at this because I think this is good. Even if it would have been bad, I would still look at it. I wouldn't holler at you and then, you know. So I'm gonna look at this, but we got to figure out some kind of way to really know. Even though I'm gonna go back to what I said from the beginning, it is not a requirement under this. It's a lot of stuff, and I don't know if you have taken the time to actually read. This is a 13-page statute. Normally statutes are not that long, but this is 13 pages. This covers everything. But what the legislature did not do, they did not give us any specifics. And we could say, well, they meant this or they meant that. The intent of the legislator is the intent of the legislator the way it is written, and we cannot circumvent the law. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is really challengeable if somebody wanted to really challenge what we all come up with.
Well, legally, we can put more restrictions on it, we just can't put less.
Well, it doesn't say that in here. Maybe I overlooked it.
You've got other communities and counties across the
They
state.
doing it wrong too. But nobody never challenged it. What I did run across
Well,
that
it's at the discretion of the ECC.
yeah, what I did run across that I'm concerned about, and I don't know if it's going to pass, is they are trying to do away with TDC, which I think is crazy. Why would you do that? But that's up there.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, you know then. You know I know what I'm talking about. So when I researched that, I don't think it's going to pass, but, and then what will all us be then? You see what I'm saying? You know, but anyway, look at it. This is very important to me. I got a friend that's a legislator that I talked to about this statute, and I just didn't understand when they was developing this thing, why didn't they add certain rules that people could understand to it? And they didn't, you know. So basically what he told me, he said the way it is written is the way you read it. And guess who he sounded like to me? Like my old boss, Richburg. He said he didn't want Cadillac law, he wanted Westlaw. Because I had these ideas in my head that certain things should be a certain way. He said that is not how the law works. The interpretation of the law is simple. You know, you cannot circumvent the rules of the law, and because if you do, somebody can file a mandamus to challenge it, the authority of it. But we're not there with this, so that was something I thought I would run by you. You got my brain working now, because you gave me this piece of paper, see.
So it sounds like we all agree there needs to be a way to track hotel nights, and I think with what Maria said, the next thing we'll discuss is the matrix on grading. But it also sounds like we're on the same page. Either they need a verified study done, or a rate code, or a combination of both. Is that the general feeling?
I got some things to say. One, I want to make sure I think we're all clear. We are here to determine how the Tourist Development Council is going to give out tourism dollars.
Right.
So somebody that stays in a friend's house is not generating tourism dollars. I don't care how many restaurants they go to. That's a different pot of money. That's not the money we're giving out. You don't get
Correct.
any credit for bringing your family in and staying at home to get tourism dollars.
And that's why I threw it out there, right? 'Cause
Yeah, no, so
Absolutely.
that's not what the state statute allows. And the reality of the generality of the state statute, and I've been working on this for 25 years,
Ray know what I'm talking about.
allows the counties, to your point, there is, Cadillac, can you
I'm
better
finna-
read
I'm
that
finna
one
get to
too.
it. I'm finna
Well,
get
no,
to-
let me finish. I'll let you talk. So the county also has a tourist development council statute of their own that is above and beyond this, that it sets rules. And if you're not reading that one, you're just reading the state one, you need to go back and read the county one, because there are some things in there that are different.
I did read it, though.
So you need to make sure, because as Ashley said, we can set our own rules, and if the Tourist Development Council of Escambia County wants to set as a bar room nights and as a guidance, I'm going to offer up the Pensacola Sports Grant Program, because when you apply for our grants, Tish knows it very well, probably better than I do, there is a process and a procedure, and you fill out our grant program, and you have to tell us how many hotels rooms you are projecting. We ask you to tell us who your hotel partners are if you have them. But and then there's a score sheet. And the score sheet has things on it like room nights, total direct economic impact, which we figure based on a program that we are subscribers to that is specific to our industry. But Darren has the same company in one that's not specific. It is not the Haas Center. It is one that's for the tourism, specifically for the tourism industry. The time of year, you get specific points if you are in shoulder season, because
Ooh, I like
we
that.
are in the business of, we don't need to sell Pensacola Beach on 4th of July.
Or Labor Day.
Or Labor Day, but we have a season. You get a location, because there's times when he needs business. That 4th of July, he may be starving. And if your event is up at UWF where he is getting room nights, you get value there based on location, but you also get, again, at a time of year, also image enhancements to the county. And each one of those categories and marketing has a score that you apply to it. And tied to that score is a total score and a value of, based on our budget, how much you can maximum get. So if USSSA Baseball does an event up at John R. Jones Park on 9 Mile Road in March, and they tell us they're going to get 5,000 room nights, that's great. They don't get a penny from us until they turn that report in. Now, they have signed basically their application that understands that what they put in there, their budgets and all that, is subject to audit, not only from me, but from the county, from Stefan. And when they turn their reports in, they have to give me accountability for the room nights that they have. And they have to sign an affidavit that says, these are true and right, and I am subject to. And once they say, if they gave 5,000 room nights, and we might give them an award based on a sliding scale that says, you get 5,000 room nights, you get $10,000. When they show us 5,000 roommates, they get $10,000.
So what if they only show 4,000?
We have a sliding scale.
Okay.
And we tell them that. They show up with 2,500, and some of it we're pretty creative. We may say, we're gonna give you $2,500 for marketing because you marketed the way to beach. We don't want to market Pensacola sports. I got no use for somebody in Minnesota, but Pensacola Beach does, the Fish House does, and our hotel partners do, coming from Minnesota. So you come show us how you marketed on your website, on whatever your marketing component. We might give you the $2,500 and give you the balance in your room nights. And if you don't, then we slide that, we have a clawback. We have a lot of people that we give grants to that are overindulgent, and they're very optimistic. But one, the volunteer mother who was supposed to collect all the room nights, she didn't. It's not my problem, it's his problem, her problem. They don't get their money. Next year, they'll have a different volunteer mom who was gonna go chase those. But we put the onus on the grantor. That's right, Ray? Or grantee? Grantee. Okay, on the grantee. You tell me you're gonna do something, we agree that we think this is a good opportunity, go for it. Here's your money when you get back to us and when you show that report. Every bit of that is in this Pensacola Sports Grant.
I love all of that.
And I think that all three, sports, visit, and ACE, we all have our own individual as it's tailored to our things. We all have a packet and how we're gonna score you and what's required, and we all have a scorecard for each one of our separate unified budget.
And I don't know that you couldn't use our grant based on what their interest is. As they're coming to the TDC, say, we really want them to come to Pensacola Sports, because the reality, one of the nice things about mine is if somebody comes to me and asks for money, they can't go to him.
Same.
And so, but if they come and they've got a phenomenal event and I can't afford it, I can pick up the phone and say, Darren, I got a great event. In fact, I sent him one yesterday. That together we will look at putting a proposal together and see, depending on what their interest is, to say, you know what, it's sports related, but it's really a conference. And maybe if we put a little money together to this, we can capture this for Pensacola. That's a little bit different. That's a bid, not a grant, but it could be the same thing. A grantee comes to me and he's got the greatest event in the world, but I can't afford it. American Magic. They didn't come through anybody. They just round the corner. But that they'd come to me or come to him, first call would have been, Darren, what do we want to do this opportunity? This is pretty cool. How do we want to help this? And it would have stayed streamlined.
So how do you make your grantees prove hotel rooms? Is it the
They've got a report they have to, it's basically followed like the Florida Sports Foundation. Yeah, there's all the guidelines on what they have to do to report it. They have to submit me a report. They have to begin, because we have a clerk of the court that's very interested in, you gave them a check, you gave them a grant. If they buy something, they have to provide me checks, they have to provide me bank statements. If they put something on a credit card, they gotta prove to me they paid that credit card. Everything that Pam Childers requires of me, I require of them. And they,
That's how
same
it go.
thing. Mine are I'm sorry, I was supposed to be talking to them. Mine are post-event awards, and that's how we do it.
Ray, one regarding the county's own tour, I did read that ordinance. There's an ordinance for that. I do have it at home. I should have brought it. I learned to cross all my T's and dot my I's when it comes to legal stuff. And that ordinance, is there. If you go and read it, it actually tracks the language of Florida Statute 125.
Oh, almost word to word. but
It's for
they're
work
all word.
in
fact,
the-
I think you're required. They're required.
They didn't change anything from what the legislator did. It's still the same. So I read it and I read it. I said, well, this didn't make no sense. Why would they write that? But then when I went back to the actual statute, it is required that the county actually track the language of the Florida statute. That was amazing.
So let's tackle two things here. I think we all agree that we want them to prove their hotel nights.
Yes.
What do we think about the clawback option? Because that was also one of the things I had listed.
Obviously, I believe very strongly in the ability to, if you're going to come to us and ask for money, that you need to prove that you did what you told us. And I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but I think there's more to the value, because as Cadillac says, there's nothing in the statute that talks about room nights. It talks about tourism.
Period.
Tourism, period.
They say if you
And
use that
the
money-
value of tourism and sponsorships and what Darren does is completely different than what I do. And so there's got to be, it cannot just be tied to, there has to be a point of marketing and value and exposure of our community that is of value. And how, that's a little bit harder. Now, that's one thing that the clerk is pounding hard on us is these, and I'm gonna use the word sponsorship because she hates that word, and then that's become a nightmare, is, you know, well, how can you prove sponsorship is truly bringing us room nights? Well, if you look up the dictionary, the word of sponsorship, there really is no way to do that for the most part. I mean, the two words don't make sense. But sponsorship is a real thing in the marketing world. He is a marketing agency. I'm a marketing agency. She's a marketing agency. And marketing is part of everything he does.
And so, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's why I was creating this score sheet of however it comes. It's not just about hotel rooms. It's about so much more than that, because marketing and sponsorship, we talk about, Darren and I talk about through Visit, it's just like travel writers. You know what I mean? Is that the value in the PR that we're able to generate for Escambia County through what we do, spending all the money on that is incredible. And that's the same kind of value that I think that this has as well.
Right.
One thing I need to say is that I get a lot of people, because I've been doing this for a while, and I get a lot of people that ask me, "Well, dog, Cadillac, how you get the money? Why I can't do this or why I can't do that?" And I have to explain to them, and I think we need to start doing this, explaining to people that these dollars is really not to throw your own party, okay? That these dollars are meant to promote tourism in the outer market, to bring people in from the outer market according to what that states, you know, nationally and internationally, what the statute reads, you know, because I mean, you can get somebody that come from Foley. Is that considered the outer market? Is Mobile considered the outer market?
If they stay here.
If they stay here, you know. So the way they got that thing written, I advertise in Atlanta because I know that's the outer market. I know that's what, 4 or 5 hours away for my event. I advertise in New Orleans, you know. Basically, I'm advertising all over the country for Pensacola. So if you go on the website, you'll see we have a beautiful brand new website that's up, and it's everywhere. It's to the point I don't run radio in Pensacola. I mean, I just don't. I might do a little bit in Mobile, but advertising dollars, you try to look how far the reach is on radio, how far is the television reach, and television is very expensive nowadays. So
Coming back to the hotels and the clawback.
Right.
Where are we at on potential clawbacks? Ray says yes. Darren?
You know, I'm fine with that. I saw in a number of the applications where, you know, if the room nights falls below a certain mark, then it falls to the lower funding mechanism. I mean, I'm just looking at Ray's, you got funding based on points, right? And so, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but your maximum award is 10,000?
No, 10,000 plus.
Oh, 10,000 plus, okay.
okay.
All right.
A
So, yeah, I'm in.
Very few of ours see that. And again, we award points against that, but the points are scaled, and our task at Pensacola Sports is to spend the money to get maximum ROI for the taxes dollars and to spend it wisely. So our committee is made up of some very smart people who also are good tourism people that know, hey, and we've even gone back to applicants and said, we try to help them. We want to give them this money because we want them to be successful. And so we've said, hey, why don't we give them, instead of giving them $5,000, why don't we give them $6,000 and give them $1,000 to boost their marketing plan or something like that, because we really believe that this event has merit. And we give and then the committee supports that or says no, whatever. And they negotiate through that. Those are not set in stone, but we end up usually in those are our guidelines.
I mean, room nights are important, obviously. If we're spending the TDT money, we want to try to replenish that fund. However, in addition to room nights, there are other things that are important. Now, if an event has a national presence or provides significant TV coverage, I mean, that's a factor that should be considered if it's giving our community significant visibility.
Yep.
So I think room nights is one of the most important factors, the number of people it brings in, number of visitors versus residents that attend. But, yeah, it does make it challenging because there's multiple
Well, but I'll
factors.
say too, it's one of the challenges that we in the art world face all the time, is that's what we call subjectiveness. And so when it comes to sponsorships and to national recognition, or how much is that going to garner, that we can't necessarily put it's very subjective, but very important.
Yeah.
As far as on the clawbacks, Pensacola sports budget in general, and then especially with the grant budget, is a lot smaller than some of the grants that TDC has given. So I don't know how that affects events that are coming. I know we've had some events that we gave the full amount. They asked for 5,000, we approved the 5,000, and then they just didn't do the event. So we didn't give them anything. We've had some where they were going to get 5,000 and they didn't get the room night, so they got 3,000. That's not going to kill that event. It's probably not going to kill that event planner, but with TDC, some of the grants that come to us are $200,000, $300,000 ask. I don't know how the clawback works. And as far as funding, I don't know if they get funded up front or they get funded on the back end. So I think we would have to think all that through. I'd hate to tell somebody you got 300,000 and then they come for a check and they're like, well, you didn't get enough room nights, you only get 100,000. That would be a pretty big hit.
Is this working? Can y'all, does this work?
No.
It is when you tap it.
Try again.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, working? Okay, all right. So it depends on the language in the MAA. So like for the unified budget, they get a large advance, if you will, compared to most of the other TDT partners that we have. So typically it could be like 1/12 would be the advance. Not everybody takes it. Some people do, some people do not. Depending, it's how the agency wants to do it, or if there's a specific advance built into their MAA based on whatever the need is, but there are not a lot of those. So, but that is ultimately how the advance pieces work, as far as the allocation.
Well, but in the education part of, if you were to keep the clause in there, the clawback clause in there, as part of the education that y'all provide, if there is a formula that says, hey, we're gonna give you this for the room nights, but you know what, we're gonna take back what you don't based on this formula. Because that sounds like that's what you do. But you give them that knowledge up front so that they know that if they're doing reimbursables, that they already know that they didn't get that, so there should be no expectation of, oh, where's my $300,000, man?
That's all in their award letter.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
very clearly spelled out in their award letter of what their expectations are.
And to me, that's like buying a house, right? Like my house is mortgaged. The bank expects me to pay every month. If I don't, they're going to take my house.
And aren't we, actually, all of us that handle county money, and that our job as part of tourism is to be a good banker? I mean, I've used that, we're responsible for loaning people money for economic goodwill or benefit back to the county through tourism. And so for us to be a good employee or a good bank officer, we should make good loans.
Mr. Banks?
I'm thinking,
So for like Mr. Banks and Jazz Fest, they're easy because they're a ticketed event. So I don't see them having issues. I think it's the events that don't have as many tickets, maybe like Foiling Week, that, you only have maybe 50 participants that are actually in Foiling Week. And then they're saying that, 10,000 are going to show up to watch the 50. So that's when the problem I see is being created. When it's ticketed events, those are really simple to, for Mr. Banks or anybody that's having a ticketed event to prove their tickets. So it's the ones that are not. But I think the clawback, well, like Maria said, that it's going to keep people honest when they fill out that application, that if you say you're going to have 1,000 room nights, you better have don't come with 100 room nights, because you're not going to be very happy.
Or fill out the application appropriately.
Right.
Don't pad it.
Right, it's going to keep people honest, I think.
Right. So youth soccer is not ticketed generally, but their teams come in and they pay a fee to get in. But it's where those organizers, if they're smart and if they're good, they know how to track the moms and dads, not just the number of players, because, they have a check-in, whether you have to sign in for the tournament or the event that you're coming to for participation. Then they direct them towards hotels, and they already have conversations and relationships with the hotel partners who go, yeah, we're going to report, because they understand that if you do a good job of reporting back for that organizer, and he's a good one, he's going to come back to our county, and they're going to come back and stay with you again. It's a good cycle if it's done properly and monitored correctly.
But we can't discount those non-ticketed events where there is money that is given to them to produce non-tangible results. Like CBS is going to be airing X, Y, Z, or ESPN is going to be airing X, Y, and Z in national markets. We have to keep that into perspective, because that is something.
Those are measurable.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that let's not forget we have things like that.
And we give them credit for that.
Yeah.
But we expect them to report that back.
Well, say if they don't get those particular number of rooms, Ray, that you require them.
All their money.
So basically, even though they might say they done spent $10,000 of their own money, because really, in all actuality, can't nobody say what an event gonna do. I mean, you just can't. You can't say, you know what, I'm gonna sell X amount of tickets. You just don't know that. And that creates a problem if the person, even these people doing these small events, I mean, they have good intentions of trying to make the event work, but then if it doesn't work, even if they done put their hard-earned money out there to try to make it work, and say, they done say, well, we're gonna get 1,000 people, and next thing you know, they don't get but 200. You see what I'm saying? You got to have some type of leeway for these people who doing these smaller events, so they don't be like, I done put all my money out there, I ain't doing this no more, I couldn't get my money back, TDC didn't give it back to me because I told them I was gonna have 1,000 room nights and I couldn't. You can't make people come to your event. I mean, you could promote it. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and I done seen a whole lot of events fail in Escambia County. I done seen them fall because they assume what people gonna come. And I think that's very important to really take a close look at when you start saying, well, you know what, you didn't get your 1,000 people, so I ain't gonna give you this other $2,000. But they tried. I mean, if they tried.
That's a slippery slope, I get it, but the reality is it the government's job to do that? And I would say that good governance would allow, so you get X amount of dollars for your event, and it's a complete washout. Do you think that the county still owes you every penny that they originally committed to? I think that could be a negotiated thing down the road. But you know what? If you say you're going to do an event and you absolutely do not make, but we gave you $25,000, don't come back next year and come asking.
And I can go.
I think you've
go
got
that.
to have some common sense involved in it. But I don't think the government is our fallback in this world where we only have a limited amount of tourist development tax dollars, and the mission of those dollars is to grow tourism. And if you propose an event and you over propose it and you don't produce what you're required to do just because, I don't think you should get your money.
So you think if they propose that event and they have a storm and they can't have the event, okay? I think maybe why not? Say if this is their first event, most time when a person doing a one-time event, they should at least have a chance to try to make this event work. So say they didn't get you 1,000 room nights the first time, so they come back next year trying to get some money. I think they should be able to get it. Now,
My committee will take
and I think now, you come back twice and it's still doing the same thing, I get it. You done shot your shot, but you just can't X them out because they said they was gonna have 1,000 room nights and then they ain't have but 200. They tried it. Is it worth giving them another shot to try again? And basically, that's from looking at the overall event itself. What did they put in that event? Did they advertise that event? Did they attack the outer market? Well, if you got a limited amount of dollars, it's hard to broadcast somewhere out of Escambia County to try to get people come here because the advertising dollars cost so much. So you got to. I think you got to really start looking at this thing as a really a big picture. If you only give somebody $10,000 to have an event, and you say I want 1,000 room nights, he gonna have to advertise that. Advertising in Pensacola ain't gonna get it because he need to advertise in that other market. That's gonna cost him. Do we get money for that? So I mean, we can go around and around about it. I done seen it too many times. People want to try, and then it fails, and they really, well, I can't go back to TDC no more. Or I can't go to Visit Pensacola, I can't go to ACE because I might not be a nonprofit. So I might as well try to go to the county and see what the county will do for me. How do we fix this problem that we have? Because we want events in Pensacola. We want people to come to Pensacola. That's my main purpose, to get people out. That's how I get off, knowing all these people coming here for the event. But everybody can't do that. They can't. They don't have it, and they ain't got no help to help them do it.
Then I don't think we should be funding that. I have a business loan for.
Well, I'm saying I
I don't say
understand that.
They come and take things.
Okay, but
They
if-
don't just say, well, try better next month.
Yeah, but I understand
I
that.
gave them a business plan and I promised I would do something, and if I don't, they take it.
Well,
If it rains out, they've got event insurance, so if you're having an event, you're taking.
Well, then you got to realize you got to realize the amount of dollars you're gonna give them.
What was your question?
You're gonna need to realize the amount of dollars you're gonna give them. If they get rain insurance, how much you think rain insurance costs for an inch of rain? Or how much you think it costs for 2 inches of rain? Or do you know how much it costs for 3 inches of rain? I do. So all that, in this time of the season, but it can rain anytime. It can rain anytime. See, we could agree,
I don't think we should be funding bad business plans.
I
If they're not producing results, it's a bad business plan.
get that. But how do you make that bad business a good business? Do you help
Not the
them,
government's
or do
job.
you? But the statute don't tell you how many times they can ask for it.
But it's part of, I think, what we're trying to come up with is a process for people to apply for dollars, and what the rules and regulations are to apply for that, what all needs to be included, and then a scoring sheet to field how those measured. And I think that between all of our organizations, we've probably found that it shakes out. It shakes out. The people who don't need to be funded are not funded, and those that should be funded are. Because they have filled out the application, they've answered all the questions, they've been scored, and they're only gonna score appropriately if they have met those thresholds.
I
So
agree.
it's going to get rid of all those folks that can't. Is that what you find?
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's close out this section based on hotel nights and the clawback, so we'll need a motion for that, and then let's move into the matrix part.
Just so that I understand.
Can you define clawback for me? How administratively is that supposed to work?
So we would need, based on whatever matrix we come up with, so if we have, I'm just spitballing, if we have 5 categories in our matrix, 20% of the money they get would be based on their hotel rooms. If you promise 1,000 hotel rooms, you only come in with 500, then you would only get half of that 20%, just for example.
Okay, so that information will happen post-event. So are we saying that we're going to go back to those applicants and try to retrieve county funds?
I think we need to decide if we're giving it to them ahead of time or after the fact.
We do it because we don't fund anything up front. So we just reduce the amount of their award based on their report.
Yeah, I was going to say we're reimbursement based. So, and the counties, for the most part, other than the advance, the rest of it's reimbursement based, right?
So correct. So typically, and you guys know this as well. So as these events are happening, that information is not available until later. So typically during that reimbursement process, you're not really gonna, we don't get that information until post-event. Once, if it was Navy Days, we're not gonna get it till after Navy Days is done. We're not gonna get it until after Fufu Fest is over. So, and we've spent the money. So that's just the point that I would like to, for the committee's conversation before decisions are made. I just need to better understand exactly what we're saying we're doing, so.
How is it right now? Are they funded on the front?
So again, ACE gets quite a bit, so it depends
I'm
on,
talking about like Mardi Gras and all the agencies that we're talking about that come to our.
so again, the majority are gonna be like 1/12, and then it's a reimbursement, as far as advance, but others do get, certainly not for the unified budget advance, but some do get more than 1/12. But again, my point is, you know, the metrics post-event are not available till post-event. Most of the things we do, even Pensacon, so it's gonna happen after Pensacon is done. You've paid the bills, you've paid your vendors, you've been turning things in all along, but your success metrics, if you will, come later, right? So yes, you thought you were gonna get the 10, 15, however many thousands of visitors, you know, we don't have that information until after the public funds are spent. So that's the point that I'm making for the committee. These aren't the smaller types. It's not the $5,000 or $10,000. These are the $200,000, the $300,000, the $150,000, the $500,000 allocations that the BCC makes. So again, when you say clawback, I'm not quite sure what that means. But additionally, if success metrics are not good, when we have those after or post-event reports and metrics delivered, you know, certainly, yes, that should be information for the TDC to make for future funding allocations. Like, yeah, maybe that didn't work, maybe we give you a lot less, you know, for the next go-round, or maybe you don't receive anything at all. So that's the point that I'm just simply trying to relate to the committee.
So based on the matrix that she's talking about, say we decide on what that looks like, can the county give them the money as it's spent and then hold back whatever percentage we decide the rooms are worth until they turn in the proof?
Then you're not fully funding the event.
Right.
So, one option that I've seen in a number of these is the final 10 or 15% is released after they get the final report. We don't do clawbacks at Visit Pensacola at this time. We just don't. But if something fails, you know, the chances of it being funded the next year are diminished. But the idea of holding back that final payment until you get the final report, so you get a final report, and get a final report in a timely manner, does give you the opportunity to hold 10, 15%.
In your professional opinion, how long should it take to get that report?
Just depends on how quickly the event organizer provides some of that data. 45 days, no more than 60.
Okay.
And I appreciate that, Darren. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So let's split this then, because we do have two different topics, and then I want to move into the coming out with a matrix. Seems like we're all in agreement for hotel nights having to be proved either with a report based on tangible data, not based on just willy-nilly numbers given out, or rate codes or links. Do we want to say rate codes or links, or how do?
Let's use both.
I don't know that we have to tell them what, they have to sign a document that says, whatever, I called it an affidavit, that says what I'm giving you is the truth. And that we are authorized to audit. I can call Tish and say, Five Flags Speedway said they had 12 guys in your hotel, and I can pick up the phone and say, did you? And he can go, no, I never saw the first one. Okay, thank you very much. Or, no, we had 47 of those people. You know, it doesn't matter, but.
Ray, why you can't just get it from the hotels
No,
themselves?
we do, because it's not, it's the applicant who we gave the money to, it's his job to do it. This just gives.
No, that's what I'm saying. Why can't the applicant just
We
get
do
it,
make them. What I said is,
have the hotel it printed out or
no,
something?
what I said is, we reserve the right, they have to sign an affidavit that says, this hotel report is the truth.
Oh, okay.
And then I reserve the right to audit them, or have the county audit them.
Right.
So I don't go chase it.
No.
I just have ability, if I have doubts and I go, I don't believe.
You don't believe
know,
you had them
we
many
had
rooms.
We had attendees that went to the tournament and there were only half as many as what they said they were gonna have. I reserve the right to go check what you get turned into.
And
Staff has done that, Laura's done, they've
yeah,
done that.
but it's basically
Of course they
saying,
do.
yeah,
Well, we've been back
That's-
to them and said, you said 3,000, but the hotels we
yeah.
called.
So I'm saying if High Point turned in a report
Yes.
that I did X amount of hotels, I turned that report in because I'm getting it from them.
Right?
I don't know, you know, so do I turn that in, do a person turn that in saying, well, this corporation said that you did these many room nights in these
You're
hotels?
getting a check from me, it's your
Yeah,
responsibility
yeah.
to make sure they told you the truth.
Yeah. Well,
If they falsified something and you got money for it, and you turned it into the
I
county
still think we saying different things. I do. Listen to how I'm saying this, so we'll be on the same page. I'm saying this is a corporation. I book all my rooms, I'm sorry. I book all my rooms through this particular corporation.
Right?
At the end of the event, I contact this corporation. I say, can you send me something on corporate letterhead to show how many room nights I have for my event at all your hotels combined? And they send me that. I turn that in to the county
You
or
don't
who.
check it? You're not responsible for checking that they sent
How
you
I'm
the truth?
how am I know how many rooms?
Don't you know how many people came to your event?
Yeah, but how many people you know stayed at that hotel?
Not my job.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, we confusing it, we
You're
getting the
getting
issues.
funded Having to answer the county attorney now.
No, I'll answer the county attorney. Trust me, I ain't got a problem with that. So I'm just saying, why create a problem that don't need to be no problem? I'm saying that's how you do yours. I'm saying we need to be unified on how we do it. Darren got a different way. Asa got a different way. You got a different way. It need to be one single way how you do this to be able to count for them
So I
hotel
think we
rooms.
agreed on rate codes and links.
I would accept your corporate letterhead.
Well, that's all you had to say,
No,
right?
but what I'm saying is I reserve the right.
Right, okay. If you don't think it's true.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm protecting the county's money.
So if you don't think it's true, then I'm gonna sue High Point Corporation because maybe they gave me the wrong number or something, or somebody gonna sue them.
So,
Okay.
so how about this? How about we require them to use rate codes or a link, or they have to tell us at the beginning, before we give them money, how they're going to track it? Because, for example, Pensacola Mardi Gras, I book hotel rooms. I live here. I feel like that's still a tourism event because I'm putting money back in the tourism pot. I don't think most people who live here are going to log on to Pensacola Mardi Gras' website and say, oh, okay, you know, it's this hotel, I'm going to stay there. I'm just going to pick my favorite hotel downtown and book a room there. So I feel like maybe we should say we pre-approved these methods. If it's something outside of this, you need to tell us ahead of time. And then that can be the board's discretion.
And that's where a majority opinion or down in St. Germain, where they do the intercept studies, can augment that, because we know there's a lot of bleed out, right? We have our room blocks set up at these hotels. We're trying to push people to those hotels, but they're going to book at this brand because they're going to use their priority points and they're going to stay for free.
Points.
Or they, our hotels are here, but they want to stay at the beach or by the mall or by the museum or downtown, not exactly where we want them to be placed. Or we have hotel room blocks, but they want to do vacation rentals. So they rent a condo or they get with another family and they're renting a house. So there is bleed out when it comes to booking room nights.
And I feel like you probably have that more so with different events.
Yeah.
So, okay.
A lot of them get Airbnbs.
It's every event.
Yeah. I have that. They get Airbnbs or they go on the beach or they rent those condos and
So what do you feel like our motion should be for this?
I think we can just make a motion that they have to approve room nights.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
we can put, whether with rate codes or rate, a link, but I think we kind of leave it up to them to approve the room nights.
That can be part of the workshop as far as talking about,
Right.
Best
I know with
practices.
Visit Pensacola and Pensacola Sports, their grant committee process, we ask for a printout. If you have hotels that you are dealing with, show proof that you are dealing with those hotels, and it's usually just like a printout of an email from the sales
email from
manager.
the sales, say we put a block of 30 rooms.
Right, thank
And,
you.
know,
That's what I
and
do.
That's submitted with the application, so, yeah. Sometimes they put, well, I'm dealing with 5 hotels, and they only send proof of 1. They've had a couple times where I had, one of my hotels listed, I call my manager, and she's like, nobody's called here. So, it does happen, where they will list random hotels, but they've never been.
You've never heard from them?
Right.
For the committee, do you want to define what a hotel night is?
Anything that contributes to the TDT pot, right?
So remember, we had different applicants that defined it as something different. So this is an opportunity for this
Oh, God, they
committee
did, didn't
to define what council and what this committee defines as a room night.
Can you tell us what you recommend from an accounting standpoint?
So it's not really an accounting thing, but, so remember, they had multiple people staying in one hotel room, so we count it as one hotel room, whether it's one person or 15 people. But you can only count it as one, I know I'm being excessive, but,
So we're there.
Party.
maybe it depends on which hotel you're staying at. But again, so we count it, one hotel room is one room.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many people are there, we only count one room.
Right.
So if you rent 2 rooms, that counts as 2. Doesn't matter how many people. So
Right, yeah, I see what
Doesn't
you're
go by the
saying. Yeah.
occupants in the room. It
How many
goes by
rooms
the
they
actual
book is
room.
what you're talking about, right, Stephen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I believe
Okay.
that we, because of the Florida Sports Foundation, and I believe Visit Florida both allow for a condo for the number of bedrooms. If it's a 2-bedroom condo, you get 2 nights. Is that not right? I believe that's right. I know not everybody does that. Some give you only 1 credit for that.
So I can almost see that because that means it's more expensive, so you're paying a higher tax.
I just think it's important for
No,
the
I'm
committee
so glad you brought
to
that up.
define that.
And I know that's an ongoing discussion of, well, if it's a 3-bedroom condo, do I get 3 room nights for that or 1 room night? I think we accept 3.
3 bedrooms, 3 nights?
Yes, per.
But it's only one
But it's-
room, right?
We honor, no, it's one house.
One house. Okay, I see
One
what you-
house or a
right.
condo on the beach.
You can count
know,
that?
Yeah, if you go to Portofino, you can go get a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom condo for every bedroom that you have. I think
Okay,
we
yeah.
allow them, but we honestly don't have a whole lot of that, but I know it's been a
Right.
lot of discussion.
Okay.
That
I
is
get
an
it.
interesting concept. So what, is that that's accepted by the state?
I think it's been a lot of conversation. Well, the state doesn't reimburse anything on room nights because they don't care about our local bed tax. It's just conversations among organizations like Visit Florida of how should we allow people to measure it? How do we recommend that? So I do have, here's a grant reimbursement guidelines checklist. Here's everything that when they go to return in their report, all the things that they have to do to provide to us to show whether it's room nights, like must have detailed invoices, not just an order or quote. It must be an invoice, copy to clear checks. And I'm sure in here is something that has to do with room nights, but I hadn't seen that one yet, but I'm sure it's here.
From a hotelier standpoint, how do you feel like we should define a room night?
I mean, of course, I'm gonna say per night, regardless if I have a suite with 3 rooms in it, because they're paying for 1 night. And you catch us on a slow season, and you may get it for a really low rate, and you catch us on a high season, and maybe 5 times that. Doesn't mean that it should be 5 room nights, just because it's 5 times then that's for any hotel. Same thing with condos. I think just because it has 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, I don't think it's, the owner of that condo is not gonna say, that's 4 room nights. You're collecting rent for 1 night. So I would hope, and I would like for us to count it as 1 room night, and then versus, if there's 5 people in 1 room, that's still 1 room night. All 5 of you stayed for 1 night. You only paid for 1 night. It's not, you didn't pay for 5 nights.
So do you want to amend your motion to require them to prove hotel nights, and each hotel night is just,
Each hotel night is 1 room night, not by occupant.
And
And-
are we expanding that to
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If we're gonna do it, let's do VRBOs or others and just make it one room night for the
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't
stay.
say hotel room night, just any room night, right. And then
Whatever that may be.
where,
Yeah,
right, it could be, right.
So that'll be included, the condos and all that kind of, right? One.
And I'm okay with that. I'm really betting that is what.
Do we have a
law does.
second?
Huh?
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Passes unanimously. Good deal. Let's start with, are you guys good? 30 more minutes-ish? Okay.
I had till 5 o'clock anyway.
We
Am
did,
getting
but
me
I
outta
didn't
here
want to overwork
earlier?
everybody.
Heck, yeah.
Yeah, let's, what we got, how many?
Okay, I do. Well, one of the three of you guys lead us on where you think, what you think the matrix should be made out of, since it's something you guys deal with on a regular basis. Obviously, hotel rooms, so that's number one.
Where we at on number 3?
So we look at time of the year, the event,
Grading
you know, if. we
Okay,
have-
I see what you're talking
We have a lot of events in Escambia County. So when we talk about bringing on new events, and to be funding them, we should try to be placing these during times of the year when it can not step on all over another event, but actually, you know, stand alone, and we can actually maybe see the impact of that event. So,
Okay.
you know, right now in January, that's a great time for bringing in events. We love events in January, but, you know, to have, what did we have? We had foiling week on top of the Mardi Gras and the Sun Belt Basketball Championships. That's a lot going on over the same time. I mean, we kind of have that going on right now at the end of October, beginning of November, because we've got Foo Festival, we have the Blue Angels Homecoming, we got the Frank Brown Singer-Songwriter Festival, Great Gulf Coast Art Festival. I mean, there's a lot going on in that time period, which is great to a point, but now it feels like maybe we could push one of those to another weekend.
So room
earlier
night,
and later.
season, what else?
I also, just on the timing, we have one of the things of, also too, not just the time of the year that it is, but also is it during the middle of the week or is it a weekend? Because if we do something during the middle of the week, you're driving a lot more revenue for hoteliers or for stays or whatever when they have their empty space. So that's always, for us, that's a factor too as to whether,
So season / weekend, weekdays?
yeah.
And the only thing that future concerns me about that, especially for anything that's the downtown world, because if you're a convention center, it's the other way around.
But also
well-
too, we're getting to the point now where so many things are overlapping at the same time on the weekends, as far as, in my world, gallery night and opera are on the same night. It's like you can't get, and they're on the same weekend. And if things were spread out, or if they were at different times, then you can double dip. You know what I mean? That's just like from a restaurant's point of view, is that taking that one night, gallery night and opera are both on that first Friday night, this Friday night, as a matter of fact. And so in all of our restaurants, we don't get to double dip on that Friday night, you know what I mean? Because it's, so that's just,
That makes sense.
I don't have that problem. I just don't. I mean, I'm at the end of September, and basically, I probably couldn't do a jazz festival on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
No, I
nothing
think,
like
yeah, I think
that.
that's where everybody's understood what.
You know what I'm
the type of
saying?
the event that it is, for sure.
You know.
I think everybody respects that.
Okay.
Some events are just built to be weekend or like yours was
Right.
holiday and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, most
So-
sporting events are, well, like your runs and your dashes and things like that are weekend.
A lot, but summertime baseball, and those things, they do weekdays, because
Yeah.
kids, they use them as vacations.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing Labor Day.
One other thing to add would be location in the county, I think is valuable, because, you know, Perdido wants their love, North Escambia County wants their love, the beach wants, you know, all of them have needs. And so I think there's value to where you are. Ties your hands, that's a little harder for you, but we're talking about the TDT, we're not controlling her program, we're not controlling mine. Talking about what the TDT wants to score, how they want to score.
for Escambia County.
Yes.
I think another thing on Visit Pensacola is just community partners, how many partners the event is collaborating with
Oh, I like that.
outside of you know, just getting TDC dollars. And other sponsorships, I think it's,
In-kind support from the community and demonstrates cooperation, cooperative partnerships with other entities to create a longer stay in the destination.
So that's community partners / sponsorships, right? Okay.
One of the things we have is, do you have the infrastructure and staff to deliver a program and backup plan? So you say you're gonna do whatever, Mardi Gras, well, do you have the staff, do you have staff to be able to give us what we need to reconcile everything at the end?
Great point.
That's one of the things we have to say, that you're a viable.
Entity.
What do you call that specifically? How did you guys word that?
We worded that infrastructure and staff to deliver programming and backup plan. Another thing we have is national marketing and messaging appeal. That's a factor in our scoring system. Because again, it's one of those intangible things.
Yeah, R2, the marketing and, you know, having a marketing media plan. Is one of our criteria that you have to have. Length of the event, too. I mean, ideally, you know, multiple day events are going to generate overnight stays versus a one day or an afternoon event, so they do not score as well. But we get those kind of applications, but ideally, we'd prefer to have multiple day events.
Okay.
We have measurements for validating return on investment or program success. So this goes back to surveying companies, geofencing. What are you gonna give us to validate our return on what we gave?
So could we group that with room nights and ability to show?
Yeah, that's one
Okay.
of the things, yeah, underneath of that. We also have in there, what is your target audience? And we ask that only because we're trying to reach multiple different audiences, because we are, you know, especially if we're countywide, like you're saying about geographic locations, we want to make sure that we have things that are good for the entire county.
So that means you would have to have different type of events then? What are you talking about? Basically,
No,
It's just a
like-
way of scoring your particular.
okay.
So like your event is all ages, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So it's all
It's
ages.
basically middle-aged people, you know,
Well, but-
elders and stuff,
but
yeah.
It can appeal to.
It can. I mean, you can get young people
It'll
coming.
tell you on your report.
I'm gonna read that when I get home. You're gonna get an email from me.
Because that hits a large swath of our demographics. It's
Yeah.
not for this niche market, but there might be something to the niche market when you do it, if it has this huge national appeal. You know, that's why it's a matrix, is that we fill out, you know, we may score really high on this and then on this, and then, you know, that's.
So could we group location and target market together? Or do those need to be separate?
I think location need to be by itself,
Okay.
but you need a targeted market, and which would probably be, I think, your outer market. Would you say that would be correct, Darren?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You got the target. The target market is the outer market. You know, I mean, if you just want to say, well, you know, we'll put it on Channel 3, they reach all the way down to where, Fort Walton or something,
Well, I
you
think you're
know.
talking more like the demographics, right? Like old people, young people.
Well, that's fine, but the targeted market for us, then we get down to marketing on media, how we gonna these things need to be marketed. It need to be marketed in the outer market, you know, because that's basically what the statute is really requiring you to do if you read between the lines.
I think that's what we'll have, is marketing and PR plan of activity, and then
Right.
under that, what's the marketing and message appeal?
Right,
Is it
right.
a local, is it a regional, is it a state, is it a national? You know, those things factor into this matrix.
I think Darren can testify, when I was with Business Pensacola, one of my major marketing tools is that I market in a national magazine. Remember Smooth Jazz News magazine? And that goes out over the whole country. And it's only about smooth jazz, nothing else. And you'd be surprised. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing, been around for years and years and years. And I still use that, you know.
So,
It targets my,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I want to talk about is jazz art. I mean, jazz people who gonna spend jazz money, you know?
So we've listed 7 different categories. If we keep it with these 7, and I'll read them off, we could essentially assign room nights 40% of the value and then 10% to each other. And that's up for, I'm just throwing that out there as a place to start. But as of now, we have room nights, and part of that's based on the ability to show those room nights, season/weekend or weekday, the location, community partners/sponsorship, infrastructure and ability to deliver, the length of the event, and the target market and PR plan.
Well, and I think one more thing that we have on here, just to throw out there, is we have resources to manage and comply with financial expectations. So under this, we have you done similar events, or what's your track history?
Can we add that to infrastructure and ability to deliver? Okay, read that to me again.
Describe
Yeah,
how you were
okay.
successful, or so that we can,
So,
Success of past.
success of past event, okay.
right, or have you done a similar event? Maybe you haven't done this jazz thing, but maybe you've done X, Y, and Z, and that's giving you, so now we want to take a chance on your big jazz fest because you've done like 4 smaller ones,
Right.
and that
I see what
helps-
you're saying. That makes
That
sense.
helps us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way we're
Invest
just
wisely.
helping them move to the next stage.
So in additional room nights, in this particular sports-related criteria, talk about the number of participants and what percentage are local versus outside of town, and that depends on the market. So we talk about like 50 miles plus is considered a visitor. If it's within that 50 miles, I think we classify it as a local visitor. So
That's stretching
because we
it. I
have so
mean,
many of our residents that are staycation, and Mardi Gras is a great example. A lot of the crews are staying out at the beach and generating room nights.
So just run through a few high points and supporting, I think, what we have, but add one little wrinkle. We actually give 40% to the room nights,
Okay,
but we give 30% to the projected economic impact. And again, we can, and the TDC could do this when they received the application, I gonna speak for my fellow unified budget people, but I know if you send it to me, we've had agencies call us up and say, I'm gonna apply to the TDC. Will you give me an economic impact report on my event as we're going to submit? And we have run that event for them at no charge because the county's paying for us to own that right. So we're doing our job as a bank officer to say, this is what the value of the economic impact. And it is very specific, as I know Darren's is, because again, I know it's the same group. It's mine just built differently, because mine's specific to 7-year-old little girls that are gonna play softball. It knows those numbers for Escambia County. And so I think we need to have an economic impact, and I think we should be your resource. I mean, honestly, and I throw Laura under the bus because she's got big, strong muscles. But she can run you a report. If she's got the numbers, in 15 minutes, she knows she can enter all the data, and she might call and say, hey, wait, I need to know one more piece of data. She can give you whether it's worth $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, how much gas tax you're going to get, how many bed taxes you're projected you're going to get, and that is a big part of our scoring.
so one of these counties actually had that available on their website, and you could plug it in right there, and it would give you the economic.
DI event calculator.
So
Mine's
can
just
you do
happened-
that for us? Can we lean on you?
You
And-
you can lean on me too,
Both of you guys?
if it's a sports event.
Okay.
Yeah, I have, you don't,
Because they had it, we didn't buy it.
So what do you
Oh,
think
I thought you had it.
economic
Okay.
impact should be?
But you have it, right?
oh, I do, but mine is built for sports.
so
So
you have to have one for different different events,
they
wouldn't you,
have
Ray?
different variations
Variants of it?
that are
Okay.
for- I'm sure they have an arts one, they have one for, whatever. But, hey, maybe something, but it's like $2,000 a year, $3,000 a year, mine is, and the county's paying for it, so maybe the county gives everybody an additional appropriation of $3,000 to your main agencies to say, we want you to be our economic impact calculator, and you just know you paid for it, you just send it to us and say, Ray, Darren, Maria, we need you to run an economic impact, and then you hand it back to your TDT, to your TDC, and say, use this as your calculation and assign it points to it.
We don't have that, and we don't have a board, we don't have a staff, we don't, I mean, we have a board, we don't have a staff, we don't have any.
Well, I
Darren,
don't
is
know
that
how to do
something that
but I
Elizabeth
bet
can
you,
run?
We've talked about possibly adding that. That's, I would want to see how that.
Yours may be more
ties
expensive
in
than
with
mine,
all-
too.
I think it's at least $5,000. But I want to see how that ties in with Downton St. Germain.
yeah,
stuff,
they may be able to do it.
How that goes. But I do like the idea that, having it on the website, that someone can punch the numbers into.
Yeah, I forget which one it was, but one of the counties that I listed actually had it on their website. And it was really,
Well, I know we go through,
it's
she
either
goes through,
Miami or
she
Pasco.
goes through certain training and things, every year to make sure, and you can
'cause you really gotta know what
manipulate,
you're doing.
you can manipulate the heck out of that
Oh,
thing.
you can?
Oh, yeah, you plug in whatever number
You
you
know when you want.
want.
Yeah.
That's why we like to, that's why we run it.
So
I
do
see
we
what you're
want
saying.
economic impact on our matrix?
I don't know why I would think you would need to have an economic.
You do or you
impact.
don't?
I think we do.
Okay.
But see, somebody sent, I have people apply for me, like I said, from all over the country, and they say, my event, an economic impact of $4.5 million last year in Baltimore, Maryland. Well, good for you. That doesn't mean one thing to me.
Well, who, do they say who did
You
it?
tell me how many, they may or may not. You tell me what you're gonna bring to Pensacola. You tell me what you're gonna bring to Pensacola, and I can tell you what it's worth to Pensacola.
So how many points or what percentage of the matrix is economic development?
Economic impact is 30 for us,
So you have 40 for room nights and 30 for economic
and then
development?
10 for timing, 10 for image enhancement, and then, but each of those have different bullet points underneath
Subcategories.
them that are, and then 10 for marketing plan and intangibles. I'm gonna give that to y'all too, so you can,
Quick question, because I don't know if you're getting to
Thank
this, or you have caps based on the event budget. So in the rules of here's
Oh,
what you
that's so
decide, or here's this, are you going to, what do y'all do now? Do you ask for whatever you want, or is it,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I,
Same thing, what amount is being asked, that's the percentage of the total budget.
that's what I was gonna say. How much skin is in there?
Really
Right?
important, how much are you bringing to the game, or is this your entire budget?
and it
Can't have
should be, there should be skin in the game.
Well, according to Ms. Brayer, now I think she realized that the statute had actually, that was the local statute, that she had found, where'd he go, Brayer's gone, that you had to pay 50, you had to have 50%. She brought that at a couple of meetings, and then I think somebody corrected her and said that's actually not accurate in the statute, that it had been updated or changed,
So
something like
that is not a statutory thing, that was just something, that was a directive
I remember that.
that the board had given some years ago, and back at that time, we had one application, and it applied to everything. So at this point, we've got a very clear TDT application, we've got a very clear economic development application, and we've got a very clear general fund, and solid waste fund, if you will, or waste services fund, application. So, the 50% requirement is not a TDT thing, but what I can tell you is each TDT applicant does get revenue from other sources other than Escambia County. So.
But it's
what-
not we don't have a required percentage, right?
Correct. So it may not be 50%, but 50%. But the majority, I would say, actually do have substantial other resources. This helps do it. Then there are others that, without this funding, they don't have the event. So it could be, our funds may be 60 or 80% of the event. Maybe they can only generate 20%. But again, it may be an amazing event. It's a proven event. For instance, I'd say everybody that we currently give funds to seem to do a decent job with their metrics. I think part of the reason for this committee meeting is to try to iron out some things to make it more clear. Everybody's all on the same page. And I know there have been questions, again, on post metrics. Was this really how many room nights were generated? Is this how many people actually attended the event? I think some of those things have been a little bit questionable, I'll just say it that way. So I think, you know, as the committee works through that, really ironing those things out, make the process better. So just want to add that to it as well.
So
Let
I
me
do-
clarify that we do a pre-event economic impact report for our scoring, for our grant committee. And then before they get any money, we do we get their post-event report and we rerun the true economic impact. We compare, what did you tell us you were gonna do with what did you actually do according to our report? And then we often have down Saint Germain run one, and we compare our economic impact report with theirs to see, well, what did they learn? What did we learn? And then we compare notes.
I love that. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. We've got about 15 minutes before some of us have to exit.
Are we gonna meet again?
I think we should meet again. Is that
Can we
okay?
have the county's application? I mean, I know we probably are all familiar with the latest
Stephen's saying
TDC.
yes.
That'd be a good place to start.
So
I didn't bring
can
it.
I get a motion that we're going to move forward on a matrix, and then that'll be the first thing that we discuss at the next meeting, and then we'll do the budget right after that?
I'll make a motion.
You make a motion. Yes, sir. Thank you. Second. All in favor? Aye. When do we want to meet again?
Well, I think you need
The
to,
sooner we get this done, better, but I think this is so important that doing it right is gonna be
We
so.
did breakfast today.
I think we did great.
yeah.
Or mornings or afternoons better for everyone? Mornings?
I will.
I think you ought to do like you did last time, send out some dates and let people respond to the dates that's
You
available.
give me a little time, I can just
Yeah.
make anything.
Yeah.
If somebody is really easy, for sure, better for one, some.
I think that, I like the afternoon, but, because I got other, you know, but,
Well, what about the 29th? Do the morning of the 29th, like 9 a.m.?
January?
Yeah, next Thursday. So we,
Oh, if I get the.
I ain't got my calendar.
Columbus, Ohio,
Hold
and
on.
I'm not iced in, I'll still be there.
okay, I'll send out dates then.
Just send out some different
Okay.
days. Chairman later. Did I say that right?
Hey, Commissioner, just one thing, to just remember, we have to advertise as well
Say again, sir?
from the dates. I was just talking about the dates she was looking to pick. Just remember, we have to advertise as well.
What is our timeline for that? Like, how far ahead do you need to
A
know?
week and a half, so the Wednesday
Okay.
prior is what I need to have the information in order to get it published.
Noted. Okay. All right, last thing. Any other business or closing remarks?
Thank you.
I think it was a good meeting.
Agreed. Meeting adjourned then. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The Wednesday of the week prior is when I need to have the information in order to get it published for the following week.
So
That's
we're
the
like 2
latest I
weeks
can
out.
do it.
Yeah.
The 29th
Yeah,
is,
thank you guys. I appreciate all of
29th
this.
is next Thursday.
Good talking.
Wonderful.
Good talking.
In order to get it into the P&J, that's the cutoff.
Okay, I was trying to make sure.
And just so everyone knows, we also email that out weekly on the county website. You can sign up for county emails at myescambia.com.
See y'all in the morning.
What you got in the morning,
They're gonna come talk about the Bay Center. I don't have anything.
Board of County Commissioners meeting.
I think they need to build a new office instead of throwing money into that old one. What you say about that?
They got the, hey, as long as it's not all tourism.